Thanks for joining us. And today we're going to talk about the three Nadis in Kriya Yoga and Daoist internal alchemy. So in Kriya Yoga and in yoga in particular, you talk about the nadis. These are these meridians, if you will, the Ida, the Pingala, and the Sushumna. And so normally they talk about the Ida as being the sort of nadi that begins on the left, moving up from the base of the spine in this sort of sinuous path, which is often has been talked about as the Caduceus. So it's crossing over from starting from the left to the right and then back to the left again, and so on as it goes up and meets the different chakras and goes back and forth. And similarly, the Pingala Nadi, starting at the base of the spine on the right hand side, sort of does this sort of snake-like movement up along sort of the central nadi, which is the Sushumna. And so when people in Kriya Yoga traditions talk about doing Kriya, and the experience of going inside this internalization, this pratyahara, they sometimes say, well, you start off by breathing in the Ida and Pingala, sort of these left and right channels, and then only eventually you get into the Sushumna, into this central channel. And then what happens from there is that you get this sort of go into deeper meditation. So that's kind of the way that people have talked about it. So normally saying that, beginners start out by doing Kriya Yoga and they're, only breathing through the Ida and the Pingala, right? These sort of superficial energy pathways, if you will. And anyway, so when we look at that from a Daoist internal alchemy perspective, it's really interesting because in Daoist internal alchemy, we talk about these kind of a left and a right channel as well, and a core channel. So these are all part in Daoist internal alchemy, part of what we call the Chong Mai, which is a central channel that basically runs through the center of your head all the way down through your body to the perineum, and then down through your sort of legs, soles of your feet into the ground, and then also upwards to sort of higher energetic connections. And there's a left and a right side to that. So in Daoist internal alchemy, we talk about the left side as being a yang side. It has a more of an active part. And in the right-hand side is more of a yin side, so less active. And this is also connected in Daoist internal alchemy to the connections, your yin and yang sides of the family, if you will. So, that you have this ancestral connection energetically through the left and right core channels of your body. And so it's interesting from my perspective because when we're talking about the model in Kriya Yoga, where you're superficially breathing or moving the energy when you're doing Kriya Yoga in the Ida and Pingala at first, and only getting into the Sushumna later and getting this sort of deeper awareness. My experience of it is that when I get into, I've been doing pranayama, or actually just even sometimes just sitting for a few minutes, getting into the tranquil breath, which is where the breath starts to level out and it becomes very, very shallow, and your body's idle drops and your consciousness is drawn within. What I experience actually is not so much that I'm moving from the Ida and Pingala, which snakes back and forth, between the two sides, as rather getting into the core channel, into that Chong Mai, the central part. And the bliss and everything that's in there, and the experience of sort of expansion of consciousness and sort of, that sort of, you're meditating, is a result of having that energy or having the awareness in the Chong Mai, in the central column. And so the interesting thing about that central channel is it's not just up and down. It doesn't go, just to your medulla or just to your crown. It actually extends beyond. And when you have that experience where you go deep inside into that central channel, into the Chong Mai, like, it, right? There's bliss in there, but there's other stuff in there as well. So it's not just like a place where it's like, I've reached my soul and this is the end kind of thing. There's a whole bunch of stuff. It's a dynamic field that is inside this central channel, inside the Chiang Mai. And if you're able to get into it, you will experience that. Now, this is not just a goal, right? It's not like, okay, I just want to have this expanded state of consciousness, which is the result of my awareness going into the central channel. You actually need to do work. This is, this is a dynamic process, right? So you have stuff in the Chiang Mai. Everyone has stuff in the Chiang Mai. These patterns of the way the chi has been shaped from ancestors, from us basically coming into these bodies, if you will, right? That there are a whole bunch of patterns that are in a way have become like cosmic patterns that are in there, patterns connected in with the Earth's energy body, all that kind of stuff. It can be very deeply in your Chiang Mai, and it's not just like you get into this state of awareness, with an expanded state of consciousness, and you're in samadhi or whatever it is, and that's the end of it. Wow, I'm free, right? No, much more work to do. But you're just operating at a different level. And it's interesting because I've heard some folks, one person in particular, remark that samadhi is just sort of the base or the trailhead, the base of the trail, and there's much more work to do, right? So in Daoist internal alchemy, we talk about other things that you need to do to basically move yourself forward in an energetic evolution, if you will, right? The most basic of being connecting into your body, right? Moving chi or life force through it. So we've got a variety at Modern Kriya, a variety of techniques like qigong and different breathing and meditation exercises to help that get going. And then we get into what we talk about as emotional alchemy, because if you're no amount of expanded state of consciousness is going to process the stuff that you need to process. So we all have interpersonal and personal issues which have an energetic component to it that need to be processed. So that's very much a part of any kind of development or transformation. You need to do that stuff, right? You can't just like, okay, let's just go inside and it's all going to be solved. You actually need to work through that stuff, right? So that's something that's really important. But once you're able to get some of the traction of that, to start processing emotions and other parts of your energetic architecture, you may be drawn into that central channel, right? And you might experience that sort of very deep blissful state of consciousness, but there's also other stuff in there that you need to work on. So just wanted to share that because it's interesting to see the similarities between Kriya Yoga and Daoist internal alchemy, as far as the idea in Kriya Yoga about getting into the Sushumna, and that is the experience of the core channel, right? Now, you don't necessarily have to be doing, the Kriya technique for that to happen, but it really does help. So, we do like heart rate variability, resonance breathing, and, blood pressure variability, and other techniques, and that will start to bring you to a low idle threshold in your body, and then from there you might have your awareness drawn into the core channel. But in Daoist internal alchemy, we actually do direct qigong and other practices to help to clear out the core channel, to harmonize the energies within it, so that when our consciousness starts to withdraw into it, there's not so much stuff, right? So you can imagine, as most people's central channel is very much like a warehouse of old furniture that hasn't been touched for generations, right? All this stuff that hasn't been processed, right? And it's like, whoa, major work to do that. So if you're just doing a simple meditation practice where you're not addressing any of that stuff, and then you're drawn into the central channel, into the Chiang Mai, and you start to experience those blissful feelings and that expanded state of consciousness, you're going to run into some impediments in there, stuff that hasn't been worked on, and you're going to need to do it. So that's why at Modern Kriya, we take a Daoist internal alchemy approach to Kriya Yoga as well, and we help to start to process that stuff through qigong, through other exercises, and clear out the core channel so that it is more clear, so that when we are drawn inside, we get that blissful experience, that our channels open so we can connect into higher energies and energies of the earth and other cosmic energies through our core channel, right? So check out our website at modernkriya.com. We have a membership section in there where we get deep into techniques of Kriya Yoga, into Daoist internal alchemy, to help clean out all those channels, right? So then when you do start to have deep meditations, you're not just dealing with a whole bunch of impediments, a whole bunch of things, limitations and stuff that you need to work on. You're not going through those, highs and lows in meditation where you're, feeling very blissful one day, and then, you know, you're doing your regular activities and you get set off by some emotional upheaval during your, you know, during your day, and you think it's because the world is wrong, but really it's just because you have unprocessed stuff inside of you that is connecting with the dysfunction outside, right? So you actually become this, have a pragmatic focus to say, oh yeah, whoa, I'm really reacting to that. Oh, okay, I know what I need to work on. And then you have techniques to do it, right? You know, like 6 healing sounds, we have the inner smile, fusion of the 5 elements, and other techniques to help to process the stagnant chi, basically limitations of the life force, and will allow you then to have these deeper meditations without running into all the stuff that you need to process when you get to higher levels of meditation, because you don't want to do that. And I think that's been sort of a real kind of stumbling block for a lot of folks, is that, you know, they'll spend a lot of time on the whole pranayama experience of it, the pratyahara, getting internal, and then find that they're stuck, right? So they reach these plateaus, right? They can't get this consciousness to expand anymore. And, you know, they're just like, well, what am I doing wrong? It worked really well till now. Well, the problem is you've got a whole bunch of limitations in your energetic anatomy that need to be cleaned out. And if you don't do that, you're not going to get, you know, you're not going to continue to grow spiritually. So that's why, you know, we have a very pragmatic and multifaceted approach at Modern Kriya, where we're using these different tools and techniques to help to dissolve those limitations, to clear them out, so that you can get you know, a better experience and be of more dynamic use in your life and, you know, the life of people around you and, you know, the greater world at large. So that's kind of what we're doing there. Like, share the techniques, you get the transformation, then you can help you know, what's going on in the world, right? Your immediate environment, your family, you know, your community, the world, etc., etc. So that's really what the whole thing is about. So check out, you know, the membership section where you can get that stuff, and that will, you know, really help. So if you have any questions about this video, feel free to send me an email at info@modernkriya.com. Also check our website at modernkriya.com and our YouTube channel. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.